Welcome to Winds of Change. In our show today, we will be discussing courage, leadership, change, and self-awareness. What does it take for you to exemplify leadership or lead yourself in a way that is true to yourself? In order to be a true leader, defining your own leadership vision is paramount in successfully leading others, or even yourself. We have two guests on the show today who are experts in two crucial leadership aspects, courage and self-awareness. Dr. Suzan Guest and Diana Ng are industry leaders and innovators in the topic of leadership. Our first guest is Dr. Suzan Guest, who will be discussing courageous leadership and change. Welcome to the show, Dr. Guest.
Please call me Suzanne.
Will do, thank you. So Suzanne, give us a little bit about your background and how you got into the line of work of courage and leadership and change.
Well, I've been interested in change management, and I am a change management consultant. Okay. So I work with large organizations around planning for change. 10 years ago, I had breast cancer. And that's where my interest in courage came in, because as part of that, I can remember very clearly a group of about 15 women in the dark of night, just like we've been having recently in Vancouver. And they were laughing hysterically about something. And I can remember thinking, these ladies are courageous. And I'd never come across that term before. So by extension, that meant I was courageous, and I was really uncomfortable with that idea. So it just sort of stuck with me. The good luck of that was that I got to go back to work a year later. And now it is 10 years later. When I had been at work for a while, I decided I would do something I'd always wanted to do, which was complete my doctorate. Yes. So, of course, doing the doctorate, you get to pick your dissertation topic, and so I did a dissertation on courage, leadership, and change events.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you said that you looked at this group of women and you thought, wow, they're courageous. When I think about, I know that I could look at somebody and say, wow, that took a lot of courage. But what does that mean? Like when we see a group of women and you saw that they were courageous, what sort of things were you seeing?
I was seeing women being very strong, a lot of energy, a lot of laughter, a lot of determination. These were very sick women because they were in the middle of the treatment. They weren't giving up one little bit, and they were all there for one another.
Okay, great. So where do you think courage comes from? Like, is it something that's just there? Is it within you and you have to extract it? Where does it come from?
Well, my personal definition of courage is that courage is an energy form. Okay. It's an energy that gets tipped for some reason, and you act. Okay, so your ability to act in tough situations is usually what I think of when I think of courage.
Okay, and is courage needed only for the times that you're in a tough situation? Like what are the times that somebody would say, oh gosh, I think I need some courage here? So what are those particular times?
Well, when we look at workplaces, workplaces are full of moments when people have to stand up for themselves. Yes. So do you have to be in the middle of a crisis? Courage often emerges then. Yes. But no, you can have many small things going on. It's a tough conversation you need to have with so-and-so. Or you hate making phone calls and you have to phone somebody. Yes. It can be that small, all the way up to you're being bullied at work.
Yes.
Okay, or you're a leader and you need to go into a meeting where you know people are going to yell at you. Okay. The union is going to yell at you. The politicians are going to yell at you. And you need to be able to be strong in yourself as you do that.
Wow, wonderful. Now, earlier in our conversation, offset, we were chatting about courage is given to you.
Yes.
And you were saying, so tell me more about how courage is given to you, and if you could touch base on a little bit of, we talked also about that it's not infinite.
That's really true. The way courage seems to work in our society is not, courage is something that I don't give myself. I don't tell myself, oh, I've been courageous. because I've gone and done something. What happens is other people have to notice it, and then they have to say to me, "Oh, you've been courageous," and then I go into this, "Oh my gosh, not me."
Yes.
Okay, and that's kind of what has emerged as a set of behaviors in our society.
Okay.
I through my research, discovered that in a very interesting way, courage has disappeared from our conversation.
Okay.
So it's recently starting to come back in. Okay, so another piece of the research, just to go and answer your second question, has to do with that courage is not limitless.
Okay.
So there were very interesting studies done in the Second World War where they were looking at how often you take your troops out of the front lines.
Okay.
Okay, so the Brits had a long tradition of keeping their men online for about 7 days.
Okay.
The Americans, on the other hand, would put their men in lines for 3 weeks, 3 months. It really didn't matter to them.
Yes.
But the Brits were very, very sort of fixed on this idea, and it was because they got such different results from it. So the men that were sent down every 7 days had a chance to recover, and they did. They recovered their courage. They won more battles. There were less cases of cowardice, and less cases of battle fatigue, high stress levels, those kinds of things. When they looked at the American troops, it were all those indicators were like off the charts.
Wow.
So they were able to conclude that courage needs to be strengthened from time to time. It's not an infinite energy source.
Okay, so if it's not an infinite energy source, then where do we get it from? Like if I was going into a tough situation, whether in my personal life or at work, and I thought, oh gosh, I could think of somebody that was courageous, and I could think, wow, I really wish I had what they had. So where do I search? Do I search within myself? Do I search externally for courage?
Well, I think you are most able to be courage if you're in touch with your own courage.
Okay.
Okay, so going back to an experience that's similar. Oh, I know how to handle this.
Yes.
It wasn't identical, but it was similar, and I was able to succeed. So you go back into your history of success.
Okay.
You go into some of the key messages that you got as a child.
Okay.
So, you're as good as anybody else.
Yes.
Be like your grandfather, grandmother.
Yes.
Etc. There's a lot of very important formative stuff that happens.
Great. Now, I wanted to come back to your dissertation because it's on leadership and courage and change. Tell us a little bit about your learnings from your dissertation.
Oh, very, very interesting. First of all, the first thing I learned was that courage has kind of disappeared because we've got this fascination with fear.
Okay.
So people believe that you can't be courageous unless you feel fear.
Yes.
Okay, and so it's kind of hard to talk about this courage that you had to climb a mountain if you weren't terribly fearful at the same time. So courage has gone underground, okay, and it's become dominated by all the research on fear, which is an interesting thing for a leader, because if you can't access your courage because you don't know your courage, then you are likely to collapse in the face of difficult situations.
Wow. And it seems a bit of a paradox, doesn't it?
Yes.
That what you in order to search for your courage, there may be fear there that stops you from searching for your courage. And we come back to an earlier segment on the inner critic.
Yes.
Right? And that